We've got a nice piece on NFL.com. You can catch it at NFL.com/Bucky Brooks, where you ranked the 3 Heisman finalists, and you ranked them as pro prospects. So let's count them down. All right. I remember, boy, back in week 3, 4 of the college season, you were talking all about Bryce Love, and you were on the Love train, and you were number 3 guy here. Bryce has been like almost Christian McCaffrey good in running.
Oh, he's been outstanding. Now, I have to, full disclosure, I've known Bryce Love since in high school, played for my dad at Wake Forest Roseville High School back in Raleigh, North Carolina, or just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, and he has been terrific. This is a big-time playmaker, straight-line guy with outstanding speed, quickness, and burst, can get to the second level, has 11 100-yard games this year, is nearly able to eclipse the 2,000-yard mark. Injuries prevented him from doing that. When I look at him and project him at the next level, he reminds me of a former Tar Heel, Giovanni Bernard, meaning change of pace specialist, a guy who has more toughness and physicality than you would think. Needs to do a better job of catching the ball because he hasn't had many opportunities. But at the next level, his toughness, his durability, his speed is going to give him a chance to be a nice complimentary back.
And Buck, I thought it was interesting that you bring up in your piece on NFL.com, he's a 5'10" guy, 196 pounds. So one of those guys you would think as maybe a committee-type approach, a guy who could be a change of pace, but only 29 career receptions in the pass game.
Yeah, hasn't been used heavily in the pass game, which is unusual for Stanford considering how they use Christian McCaffrey. Sure. But he has that ability. He has the ability to catch the ball. He doesn't have the proven production to show it. But when you look at him and you watch him and you're close to him, you see that, look, he has the wiggle, the burst, the explosiveness to take it to paint. He's tough enough to play in that eye. If he has that route running ability, he could be a very, very good player, much like Giovanni Bernard has been for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and I think we were reminded how good Gio is when he came in and filled in nicely for Joe Mixon last week against the Steelers and made some nice runs. All right, your second rated Heisman finalist as a pro prospect is the enigma wrapped up in a riddle a little bit, and Lamar Jackson. And look, I mean, bring out the controller.
Absolutely.
The video game numbers.
He is a creative player on any video game. He is everything that you look for and that you want to build around. Explosive, dynamic, terrific with the ball in his hands, can score from anywhere on the field, and he's a fearless competitor. When I watch him, and I watched him over the last 3 years, each year he's made steady improvements as a passer. He is now hitting the 60% completion mark, which is what you have to do as an NFL guy. He also continues to bring the explosive dimension as a runner. Back-to-back seasons with over 1,000 yards. You talked about the number of touchdowns that he has delivered since he's been there. He is a guy that really reminds me of a young Michael Vick. And the reason I make the comparison to Michael Vick is because when I was just starting out in the scouting business, that's when Mike Vick was coming out of Virginia Tech. And he didn't have the kind of numbers. He was a raw, unrefined passer, yet he was #1 overall in that 2001 draft. We saw him gain 1,000 yards as a rusher at quarterback. Uncommon to see those kind of things. He's going to be a tough eval for people who don't want to embrace the thought of a creative player at quarterback. But if you were willing to embrace the athleticism part of the quarterback position, Lamar Jackson could be someone that is very, very intriguing to kind of work with and build around.
And you called him, NFL.com/Bucky Brooks, you called him more of a thrower.
He's a thrower more so than a passer, meaning he's not a guy that can necessarily play the connect-the-dots games. If you're thinking that he's going to be a highly efficient passer that's going to slice you up in the small ball era, that's not necessarily how he's built to play. When I watched him, and I watched him personally, I went to see him play against North Carolina at North Carolina. Struggled a little bit pushing the ball outside the numbers on those deep comebacks and outs. But if he has the opportunity to throw isolation routes like those bang eights, those skinny posts, things that are part of the quick game, he can do that in rhythm. And then you add the run factor, he can be dangerous. It will take a creative offensive coordinator to pull the trigger on him, though.
All right, and number 1 is the guy who is the Heisman Trophy favorite this year, Baker Mayfield. Of course, started his career at Texas Tech and then moved on to Oklahoma. Immediately won over that team, that locker room, became the starter, and has not looked back.
He has not looked back. He's a junkyard dog at the position, meaning he's a feisty competitor. He has all the grit, the toughness, the confidence, the swag that you look for from your QB1. He has improved so much as a passer from last season to this season. I see a guy that is very accurate, decisive. He puts the ball right in the strike zone for the receivers, yet he continues to be a dynamic playmaker. As a pro, however, it's going to be interesting to see where he comes in at. He's listed at 6'1". I don't think he's that tall. He's going to be a guy that runs probably in that 4'8" to 4'9" category. So when we make the comparisons to Russell Wilson, it's a huge difference in terms of the explosiveness. When you make the comparison, the best comparison is probably Drew Brees in terms of his ability to use his athleticism within the pocket. If he continues to develop and understand how to manipulate the passing lanes to find windows to get the ball out, he absolutely can blossom into a Drew Brees-like player at the next level. And I think we've heard all the conversation about Baker Mayfield being a first-round pick. I think we need to kind of curb that and just think about the comparison and what he could be